Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ruger, surprising you with new topics every single week and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. And guess what? Aren't you excited? It's episode 80. Are you kidding me? I cannot believe we are at episode 80 of this podcast. It's been an absolute blast recording this every week. Just about 2 episodes, sometimes 3, rarely 1. That's not even a slogan. That's just kind of how it is, and we have a fun one today. We are, of course, going to be recapping all the fights from UFC Atlantic City, which went down this past Saturday. It was a pretty interesting event. A lot of thoughts to give for that. We're also going to be giving an official review of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, which is going to be absolutely electric. Love that movie. Saw it with my buddy Josh over the weekend. Fun times. We're also going to be revisiting WrestleManias 35 to 39 as we gear up for WrestleMania 40, which goes down this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. It's actually a little 2-night event. You got that on the 6th and the 7th, Saturday and Sunday. Yes, we're also going to be dropping our predictions for that on our Thursday episode or Friday episode, whenever I get around to recording episode 81. And also, we're going to be reviewing all the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games as we give our Final 4 predictions for March Madness. A lot of fun stuff to go over today. Let's not waste any time. I just have so much to talk about. Let's kick it off with some new UFC news. Not too much UFC news, and thankfully, there's been so many things I want to put into these podcast episodes, but if I want to kind of keep them under 2 hours, I have to kind of regress how much I talk about certain things. And honestly, if it goes over 2 hours, it doesn't bother me too much. It just doesn't let me upload for free on YouTube, so it's kind of a doozy. In the UFC world, we haven't, like I said, not too many new announcements. We've had 3 new fights announced, and they also announced that UFC 302 is officially in New Jersey for the June 1st pay-per-view. Yet to be announced who's headlining. It's rumored that it could be Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. It would be a very interesting fight if that went down. Not official. Same as the Conor McGregor-Michael Chandler fight. That fight is not official yet. It is rumored. It is verbally agreed to for UFC 303, but I mean, like I said, that could just be Conor McGregor talking. The official fights we have, though, going down on that unannounced June 8th card, or actually this is a new one. They were talking about that June 15th card. June 8th, which is going to be a UFC Apex card. We have Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapalus in the men's bantamweight division. Cody the Spartan Stamann, 21-6 professionally. He is 7-5 in the UFC. Biggest wins probably over Eddie Wineland and Brian Kelleher. Always fun watching him fight. Sometimes, he's really big on grappling, so, sometimes he leans on the grappling. Other times he'll get a TKO like he did over Eddie Wineland in round 1. But he's a fun fighter. I am more interested to see Taylor Double Impact Lapalus. He is from France, fun fighter. Got a big win over Colin Loran last time out. 19-4 professionally, 4-2 in the UFC. Like Taylor Lapalus when I saw him in France. We'll see if he can deliver the same electricity in the UFC Apex, which I doubt he can, because the Apex cards are kind of mediocre. We do have a main event official for that May 11th card in St. Louis, Missouri, and if you thought it was going to be something big, if you thought it was going to be something brilliant, you'd be incorrect, because they elected to go with Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Derek Lewis currently ranked number 12 at men's heavyweight, Rodrigo Nascimento ranked 15th, and the only unfortunate thing about this is Derek Lewis's opponent. Okay, Derek Lewis, always worthy of a main event. He's such a fun fighter. But there were other options. You had Jairzinho Rozenstruik, number 11 ranked, another fellow knockout master. Okay, that was pretty much the main one people were looking at for this one. Rodrigo Nascimento, I mean, he is 11-1 professionally, 4-1 in the UFC, holds wins over Ir Latifi, Dontel Mays, Tanner Bozer, fun stuff there, but very irrelevant, yet to do anything fun in the octagon so far, just some decision wins. I don't know why we bother, but we do get to see Derek Lewis, and Derek Lewis should knock him out. On paper, Derek Lewis should have his number. Derek Lewis, 27-12 professionally, 18-10 in the UFC, and he does hold the knockout record for the UFC. That's right. He has the most knockouts in UFC history. I think heavyweight for sure. I'm pretty sure it's UFC. Overall, he's gotten 5 performance of the nights, 3 fight of the nights, wins over Francis Ngannou, Alexander Volkov, Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, always entertaining. I will be rooting very hard for him if he's actually the main event. They announced it as the main event, but a lot of fighters have been saying, hey, let me be the main event over them, and we'll see what the UFC does. They sometimes change their main events. And the last fight that was recently announced 2 days ago, which is actually going down at UFC 302 in Newark, New Jersey on June 1st, is a welterweight matchup between Phil Rowe, 3-2 in the UFC, 10-4 professionally. Biggest win is over Nico Price, and he takes on Jake the Celtic Kid Matthews, 19-7 professionally, 12-7 in the UFC. Phil Rowe is from Philadelphia, I believe. He is a very fun fighter. And Jake Matthews, he's from Australia. Always love watching him fight. He holds wins over Diego Sanchez and Li Jingliang, which are some of his biggest wins to date, I would say. And Jake Matthews, he held the titles in the Australian MMA League, the East Coast MMA League, so he's a very legit contender. The winner of this could be looking at a ranked opponent come maybe the fall after their summer square down face-off matchup, however you want to put it. But I would probably lean Jake Matthews for that, Derek Lewis for that, and probably Taylor Lapalooza for those fights. We'll be waiting for other big ones, but with UFC 300 coming up, I'm kind of sure that it's there's a time coming for new fight announcements in the future. We'll keep the ball rolling though. Okay, we got a lot to talk about today. We don't have time to just ramble on about UFC. We actually have more UFC to talk about later. This is the Surprise Jab podcast. We got so much fun stuff to go over. Next up, Invincible. That is right, Invincible, one of my favorite TV shows, and I'm not big on animated TV shows. I used to be when I was younger, but Invincible is super, super fun. Okay, it's on Amazon Prime. It's in season 2, and we just watched the second to last episode last week. The actual season 2 finale will be coming out later this week, I believe Thursday. But episode 7 of season 2 was so much fun. Of course, stars Mark as Invincible, this superhero who, just as his name says, is essentially invincible. And, he's back with his girlfriend Amber. They're attending some comic convention. There were some comedic moments there. They actually had what's his name? Tim Robinson or something. The guy who does those funny sketches. I know he did one where it was a reality dating show and there was only one guy who wanted to go on a zip line. He's done stuff where someone makes a your mom joke and he takes it seriously and calls his dad and stuff. He's a funny guy. He's on Netflix and stuff, comedy specials. He voices one of the characters for this episode, which is super funny. And just a lot of stuff went down in this. You have the return of Alan the Alien, who is super, super fun. Love watching him on screen. And he's essentially going to take on the Viltrumites, okay? This is kind of gearing up for a big war, which I think they're building up for in season 3 more, kind of just building up in season 2, but fun stuff here. They introduced us to a new villain, I believe. What is her name? Anissa? Anissa is, and she is part of the Viltrumites, and she is super powerful, and she beat up Mark. And I'm so confused about how Mark's supposed to be invincible, but he keeps almost dying. It's pretty funny. But the buildup is going crazy. Mark and his girlfriend Amber, they had a little falling out of sorts. One of his there's just so many storylines going on. It's one of those shows where you don't watch one episode and you're like, oh my gosh, how much did I miss? But it's fun. It's super fun. I don't really have a full recap to go over for that. Once the finale comes out, I'm thinking we kind of go into a more, how do I put, a full season recap. But, the episode is pretty straightforward. I'd encourage you to go watch it. Don't really want to spoil too much. Season's fun, and, they're all 45 minutes, 8 episodes and 2 seasons. I watched the entire first season in one night from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. I was able to bang them all out. It's just how easy they are to watch, so I encourage you all to check Invincible out as we gear up for the finale. It's going to be hype. I'm excited for it. I'll tell you something else that I was excited to watch, and I ended up watching last night, and that is the highly rated, highly touted about movie No Country for Old Men. This movie was absolutely phenomenal. I've been told to watch it for some time. It's based off the 2005, I think, novel, a 2007 novel. whenever it was written. The film came out in 2007, and it is so suspenseful. It stars, who's the cast? It has Tommy Lee Jones. He plays a kind of an old-timer cop. The times are a-changing, the ways of, how policing does. And, the title No Country for Old Men holds a place in the film, as you kind of see throughout the film, that in the area they're living in, the age, if you will, it really is no country for old men and sort of the old ways of doing things. It also stars Javier Bardem, who plays this psychopathic not serial killer. Honestly, he is kind of a serial killer, but he is a hitman, if you will. And psychologists have described him as portraying the most realistic psychopath of all time, which he plays a very chilling role. Whenever he's on screen, you feel his presence. And I think whenever an actor can do that, he's just top of the line for his craft. You also have Josh Brolin, who kind of plays this retired welder. He's kind of a hunter now, and he stumbles upon this big cache of money, and little does he know he opens up, himself to. He kind of plans to take it to the cops, but then greed overtakes him, and he kind of takes him on a crazy journey, and he gets chased by Javier Bardem, and it is just a phenomenal, phenomenal movie. You also have, oh my gosh, what's his freaking name? Woody Harrelson, the great Woody Harrelson, who is a bounty seeker trying to catch the hitman. What's his name? Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem. And let me just tell you, his role in the film will very much surprise you. I don't really want to give too much away. The main thing about this movie is there's no soundtrack, and it adds this eeriness when it's on screen. And the fact it's one of those films where you never know when a character is going to die, those are the ones that I really enjoy. And it kind of ends leaving up for interpretation and how it goes. The film kind of ends with Tommy Lee Jones's character sharing his dreams and stuff, and I know it's really meant as a symbolism type of thing. It kind of makes me want to read the novel, but like I said, this is a critically acclaimed film. It won 4 awards at the 80th Academy Awards, Best Picture, one of the most popular ones. It's actually listed on the top 100 films of all time, directed by Joel Coen and his brother Ethan Coen, and it's based on the novel by Cormac McCarthy, No Country for Old Men. Takes place in the 80s, and honestly, it just really takes you back to that time. But really, the age doesn't matter for as the time points. And cast, it's really good. You even have Kelly MacDonald. She plays Josh Brolin's wife in the film. What happens to her? It is a crazy ride. I'll tell you that for certain. I was trying to see if there's some differences from the novel, and that is the focus. It certainly is a more darker focus. This is a darker movie, if I'm being honest. It is certainly pretty. I don't really want to say it's not overly gory, but there's a lot of death, there's a lot of killing, and I think just the star of this film is obviously Javier Bardem, starring as this hitman, and it's very good. Very good. I encourage everyone to watch it. It gets a 9.1 out of 10 for me. And honestly, I was planning to get a good 8 hours of sleep last night, but I ended up staying up till 1 in the morning watching this film. It just kind of sucks you in, because you're kind of well, I can't pause it. I can't pause this movie. I have to figure out what happens. And man, it is fun. It is a fun ride, a chilling ride. And I encourage everyone to check it out. But let me just tell you the main film that we're going to be talking about today, and that is the great, the powerful. It just came out. It is amazing. Godzilla x Kong, the new empire. I saw it this past weekend, and let me just tell you, I had so much fun with this movie. And first off, let me just say, people are going to critique it. They're going to say, okay, this is unrealistic. The plot's dumb. Let me just tell you, it is 2 CGI monsters fighting. It is 2 CGI monsters fighting. I don't know what you want. I don't know if you want a freaking a movie I just talked about, No Country for Old Men, The Godfather. If you want a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood script, if you want to watch a critically acclaimed movie, go watch something like that. Go look up top 100 movies of all time. This is just a fun movie, and Adam Wingard, as a director of this franchise, knows what he's doing. He has a vision for the franchise, and this film was absolutely it. It was the 38th film in the technical Godzilla franchise. It was the 6th in the so-called Monsterverse, the official sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, which came out in 2021. And essentially, plot of the film is, Godzilla, he rules the surface world of the Earth. Kong rules in the hollow Earth, inside of the Earth. And basically, Kong's lonely. He is a what do they call it? A social creature, and eventually, thanks to setting traps to catch his food, if you will, he stumbles upon an intersection of hollow earth. Hollow earth, of course, there are going to be even more hollow sections of the earth. And as he goes in there, he finds out that there's a whole new race of other Kongs, of other monkeys, if you will, primates. And he stumbles upon this fun little guy. Oh my gosh, what was his name? I cannot remember the little monkey's name in the film. What was it? Wasn't Shimu. Suko is his name. And let me just tell you, Suko is so funny. There's this funny scene when Kong first runs into him, and he's getting jumped by the three other apes, and Zuko's attacking him too. And Zuko's this like tiny little baby orangutan, and Kong picks him up, and he's like hitting the other apes with Zuko. And it was just, I was laughing. It was fun. And eventually, Zuko and him, Kong, they begin to become best friends. You're kind of seeing a bonding. It was kind of like a friends, maybe like an older brother. I don't really know if it was a father type. It did kind of seem like the older brother type of dynamic between them both. And he eventually finds out that the apes are all imprisoned by Scar King. And long ago, Scar King led a war against God, trying to take over the surface world, and Godzilla imprisoned them in like this realm of fire and stuff. And Scar King's the ruler down there, and he's this evil monkey, and he's just a really, like, you can tell he's a villain, and there's no sympathy for the villain. He's a bad guy. He treats everyone rudely. And he has this monster called Shimo, Shimo, who's kind of the rival to Godzilla, if you will. It's kind of like Godzilla's rival. It's a giant lizard, and it shoots ice. It freezes stuff. And thanks to this crystal that Scar King had on like his bone necklace, what do they call it? Like those wraps of bullets, they have. It's kind of like that, but with bones. And he's able to control Shimu, and kind of like, he's imprisoned her for millions of years. And it just, Kong and him, they have a falling out. Kong's hand gets hurt. Eventually, you've seen it in the trailers. Kong gets this robotic glove. He essentially becomes Roman Reigns, Thanos. He has this powerful mitt. And eventually, Godzilla and Kong team up to take out Scar King and Shimo. And it is a fun, fun ride. There are some great shots in this film. The CGI is amazing. I just... It's so impressive. And now that I know how much CGI costs, I mean, it's even more crazy to think about how much money is put into producing these films, paying everyone to work on them. So big credit to the gang for making them. Everyone part of the production team. And let me just say, the final battle, super fun. And you had Godzilla throughout the film taking out other titans, basically absorbing their power, going to nuclear reactor plants, because he knew he had to gear up to take out as a Scar King when they eventually fought. He could sense it. And let me just say that Kong has reached a whole new level of superiority in this franchise. And Godzilla, it's just like no one can challenge him at this point. It's absolutely crazy. And one thing Adam Wingard said, the director, is that he sees places to take this franchise. I mean, we've gone from Godzilla in 2014, which really focused on the actors, and Godzilla was this eminent, like, mysterious force. You went to Kong Skull Island, where you introduced Kong as this hero. He was likable, amazing cast of, you had Tom Hiddleston, you had Samuel Jackson, you had Brie Larson, John C. Reilly. Following that, you go Godzilla King of the Monsters, which just throws a bunch of monsters at you. After that, you got Kong versus Godzilla, which was so much fun. You had the series, I should say, not theory, the series on Apple Plus TV, where they essentially kind of expands on the history of Monarch. And then you get to this film, and I think we're actually going to rank all of those on a future episode coming up maybe next week. We'll see how packed Thursday's episode is, but... like I said, this franchise is going places, big monsters ahead. I think they've been talking about Destroya could be the next big bad, but it's looking like Godzilla, Kong, they're buddies now. What do you know? The music, also great for this film. I very much enjoyed that. And the cast, very good human cast. Very good human cast. You had Rebecca Hall returning as Dr. Ian Andrews, along with Kaylee Houghton as Gia. Kind of part of this tribe of the Iwi, who are kind of this inner Hollow Earth people. We met them in, Kong Skull Island. She was in the past Kong vs. Godzilla. She was able to communicate with Kong, and her role expands in this. And it gets all mysterious. And honestly, as weird as the human aspect was with the indigenous tribe in the Hollow Earth, I mean, you have to think about indigenous tribes around the world, and even looking back in history, there's mysterious stuff with them. and we had no idea what was going on, and I just think about that when I was watching this. You also had Brian Tyree Henry return as Birdie Hayes, his character, the conspiracy theorist from Godzilla vs. Kong. He was so funny. Great comedic relief from him. And Dan Stevens joining the crew as Trapper. Such a fun guy, the heroic Australian guy coming in, taking over the screen whenever he was on. Very much enjoyed it. But there was destruction, there was fighting, there was war, and the good guys came out on top. Lots of fun stuff, and so far we are definitely going to be in a sequel to this, and it is doing very good at the box office. The budget for the film was $135 million. The movie came out Friday. It already has $195 million, so it's already got $60 million in profit, and it is just continuing to run up. It actually rivaled Dune Part 2, I think, for opening. Grossed $194 million worldwide in its opening weekend, which is very impressive. I'm trying to see how much it made opening night. I know it made in like the 50 or 60 millions opening night, which is very impressive. Very much enjoyed this film. I encourage everyone to watch it, and I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I document all the movies I see. I rank them beforehand and afterhand. I gave it an 8.3 beforehand, and I bumped it up to an 8.5 after seeing it. I mean, it was just a fun movie. It was a fun ride. The pros, I mean, there's just some great shots, and there's moments where I'm just kind of like, I'm getting hype in my seat in the theater, I'm kind of looking to my buddy, I'm like, yo, this is awesome, this is fun. I'm laughing at parts, there's a weird scene comes on, you're kind of looking around and stuff. The arc of Kong going from this adolescent on Skull Island, he's kind of alone, to this king. He officially becomes King Kong at the end of this film, leader of his tribe, finally reunited with people, and he's kind of leveled up. I mean, you can even see in his face, it looks different in the design they've done since the first film with him, and his arc is just so cool. And one thing they kind of touched on is that Godzilla looked kind of lonely in the film. You kind of see now Godzilla's like, I'm all alone now, so maybe we see him expand his part in the film. You also see the return of Mothra. She's a fun Titan. They introduced new Titans in this. New abilities. I really liked all of it. The negatives, I mean, there's just, the only negative you can really point out is just like the logic. There's a scene where Godzilla jumps off a mountain and kind of like swan dives into the ocean. Like, it's a goofy film. You just kind of have to accept that. You can't really go in going, oh my gosh, this cinema was not even good. It wasn't entertaining. And I think if you didn't like it, it's either just not the movie for you, which happens because there's certain movies that just aren't for people, or it's just you were expecting a high quality movie and you get this CGI monster mesh. So it all depends on the viewer, but like I said, I enjoyed it. It gets an 8.5 out of 10 for me, and it makes me want to rewatch these movies, and it makes me want to re-see this movie. I will definitely be rewatching it once it comes out on HBO Max. I'm hoping HBO Max, but we'll see what happens. So much fun with it. I encourage everyone to check it out, just like the other stuff. Invincible, No Country for Old Men, and Godzilla x Kong. Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. Pretty crazy title. They could have dimmed down the title a bit, but it kind of adds that menacingness to it, if you will. I'll tell you else that is menacing, and that is the spectacle that is WrestleMania. That is right. We left off at WrestleMania 34 on our WrestleMania revisit as we gear up for WrestleMania 40 coming up this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. And, WrestleMania 35 to 39, they kind of feel like their own thing. That's absolutely the spectacle. It's becoming bigger and brighter now. And WrestleMania 35, no exception. Let's go through 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 and get all caught up on our WrestleMania history before we watch 40 this upcoming Saturday. So WrestleMania 35 going down April 7th, 2019 in East Rutherford, New Jersey at the MetLife Stadium. 82,265 people in attendance for this event. Absolutely crazy. This was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The stage was just massive, absolutely amazing, and there were some crazy moments on this card. One of the better. Actually, no. I think I'm thinking of the 2020 Royal Rumble. I was gonna say there was a crazy impressive Royal Rumble before this one. I think I was thinking of the next year, but this WrestleMania, no different. This one had 16 matches, and this was actually the last WrestleMania where they had it on a single night. The last few they've done on 2 nights, so maybe this was historically the last one they did. They had 4 pre-show matches, nothing really notable on there. As we get into the main card, the WrestleMania itself, Brock Lesnar comes out with Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman essentially says, hey, we're not waiting around all night. The WWE Universal Championship match is going to take place right now. And Seth Rollins, his opponent, comes out. He had won the Royal Rumble and essentially just squashes Brock Lesnar, catches him off guard, beats him in 2.5 minutes, and it was a fun way to start WrestleMania. As when we talk about the main event, it was kind of a different approach with this one. And, I really like this aspect. It really caught everyone off guard. And Seth Rollins winning felt like the right move. After that, you had AJ Styles and Randy Orton given a competitive 16-minute, just a singles match, Great wrestling from both those guys. Certainly a step up from WrestleMania 34, if we know how much of a lame match that was. After that, you had a SmackDown Tag Team Championship, the Usos beating a bunch of other teams. This was before they were with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, if you will. Good stuff. Good stuff. Nothing memorable, though. I'll tell you what is memorable, though. Shane McMahon defeating The Miz in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I do feel bad for The Miz that Shane McMahon had to win pretty much every match of their feud since he is the boss's son and has a say in everything. But, Shane McMahon, absolutely crazy. There's a scene where they both fall off like the top of a giant beam into like these mats, and it just looked all massive. They had dust covered up. Fun match between those two, and, thankfully Shane McMahon wasn't jumping off a steel cage, but he was falling off like a 20-foot high beam. Fun match between both those guys. Always love it. After that, you had a Women's Tag Team Championship match. Nothing really notable there. And then probably one of the best moments from this WrestleMania, Kofi Kingston defeating Daniel Bryan to win the WWE Championship. The best match from this WrestleMania by far. And, it was kind of like Kofi Kingston went from this early guy, he's kind of a jobber, never really did much. He was kind of part of these tag teams. He won the Intercontinental Championship, United States Championship, but no one ever really thought he'd be a main eventer, be the big shot. And he took on Daniel Bryan, who was being a heel this year, an absolutely amazing heel. And it was absolutely amazing. Won the match, and the pop from the crowd was so electric. I could just feel it. It got me so jacked. And Kofi Kingston, great moment. Daniel Bryan, one of his final few matches at WrestleManias. Happy to see it was this one. After that, Samoa Joe to squash Rey Mysterio. Roman Reigns defeated Drew McIntyre in a 10-minute match. Roman Reigns, of course, had to step away after it was announced that he had unfortunately contracted leukemia. He had previously had it, but it returned, and he was forced to deal with it. And this was kind of his return to WrestleMania after months match. And it was just great seeing him get the win. The crowd was behind him. And finally, Roman Reigns was being cheered for, which was amazing. After that, you had the great storyline between Triple H and Batista, who competed in a no-holds-barred match. If Triple H lost, he would have to retire. And let me just say, these two went to war. They had these steel chains, they had the steps, they had chairs and kendo sticks. It was brutal. I think at one moment Batista was biting Triple H's fingers or something. It was very weird. Or maybe Triple H ripped out one of Batista's earrings or something. It was they really sold this match really well. Went almost 25 minutes, and this was the last match you'll probably see of Batista in WWE, and he had to go out with a bang. He got so many tattoos over the years. It was absolutely crazy. Actually, this is probably one of the final matches Triple H ever had at WrestleMania. As he's gotten older, he's had some health issues, so always great to see some of the legends I grew up on dueling it out in the ring. You then had Baron Corbin defeating Kurt Angle in Kurt Angle's retirement match in 6 minutes. Absolutely squashed him. No idea what to make of that. Absolutely a waste. Absolutely a waste. After that, you had Finn Balor defeating Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know anything about this match, but it lasted 4 minutes. You then had the historic triple threat women's take-all match for the WWE Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships, respectively, as Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch became the first ever women to main event WrestleMania. And everything went well for this match except the finish. I also think Becky Lynch winning was the right move. It felt like the right move. Ronda Rousey was champion. Charlotte Flair was the other champion. But, they kind of botched the finish. It was almost a realistic finish where, Becky Lynch accidentally pinned Ronda Rousey, but Ronda Rousey's shoulders weren't down. The ref didn't see it. It was just weird. It was just an awkward ending. It kind of took away from, the spectacle of a big finish and then getting the win. But nonetheless, Becky Lynch won. Women main evented their first WrestleMania. That's all I got for this one. just kind of a weird finish, which was kind of dull on it. That's all I'll say. But the next WrestleMania, talk about working with what you can, because this was, of course, the WrestleMania that took place during actually not even during COVID, during the start of COVID. WrestleMania 36 was planned to take place in Orlando, Florida, or Tampa, Florida, at the Raymond James Stadium, where the Buccaneers play, actually. But instead, it was moved to the WWE Performance Center due to COVID. We couldn't be around anyone. So the WWE had to pivot and come up with some new ideas for this event. And let me just say, it kind of worked out well. Obviously they couldn't have any audience, they had to take precautions, and they actually ran this as a 2-night segment. And this was kind of because, they could do it because everyone was in their homes. And little did they know that they would end up sparking this whole idea to have WrestleMania on 2 different nights to showcase more people. So on night 1, Saturday, obviously there's no crowd, nothing too exciting. There's a couple women's tag team championship match, a singles match. Becky Lynch defeated Shayna Baszler for the Raw Women's Championship. Interesting stuff there. John Morrison actually defeating Jimmy Uso and Kofi Kingston in a triple threat match for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship, where one person from every team was representing their respective team. Very, very weird. I don't know what was going on there. You did have Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins competing in an almost 20-minute no disqualification match. Probably one of the better matches on this night event overall. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, absolute masters at their craft. It was one of those where you're watching, you're kind of like, the fact there's no audience really kills this. Second to last match, you had Braun Strowman defeating Goldberg to win the Universal Championship. It was one of the most brutal squash matches I've ever seen. And then the main event, though, they had The Undertaker defeating AJ Styles in a boneyard match. And this will be the final time The Undertaker competed, I say with air quotation marks if you could see my face, because they kind of turned this into a movie production of sorts. It was really fun. It was cinematic. They really leaned on that aspect, which I absolutely loved. It was fun. It was entertaining. And it was the best match from night 1 of WrestleMania. Obviously, should have been the main event. Nothing else came close to it. And it was fun just seeing, The Undertaker and AJ Styles. The Undertaker would just appear behind him. They'd end up in different scenes and stuff. It's basically essentially a 24-minute short film, if you will. And it was enjoyable. And it was kind of sad knowing that was one of the final times I'll ever see The Undertaker, but I treasured all of his moments. We've talked about his matches on our little series here, and he is a legend of the game. We get to night 2, April 5th, 2020. I think I would have just been starting at Cub, actually. I was working in Cub back during COVID. We kick off the night. Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley to win the NXT Women's Championship. I don't even remember that happening. Aleister Black defeating Bobby Lashley. You had Otis defeating Dolph Ziggler in a singles match. Now, that was weird. And then you had one of the most wild and longest matches, super unnecessary, as Edge defeated Randy Orton in a 37-minute last man standing match. And first off, not having a crowd was weird, but this just went on for so long. 37 minutes is a long time. I think it's one of the longest WrestleMania matches of all time. It has to be. And essentially, they just went all over the arena, just beating each other up. You were thinking it'd end here, thinking it'd end there, and eventually it got to the end, and it was like finally Edge's won. Took forever. Raw Tag Team Championship match, pretty relevant. You had a fatal 5-way elimination match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley won that, just under 20 minutes. You then had one of the most fun matches, the second to last of the night, as similar to The Undertaker and AJ Styles, you had The Fiend Bray Wyatt, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt, an absolute legend, rest in peace to his soul, passed away the previous year, as he took on John Cena in a Firefly Funhouse match, where essentially Bray Wyatt, who was this darker character, if you will, leaned on this whole thing. He had this Firefly Funhouse show, one of the best segments of 2019 and 2020. And essentially, he took John Cena through his whole career, his ruthless aggression era, his starting out era, his hustle, loyalty, respect, main eventing WrestleMania, The Rock, him going to Hollywood, and he brought it all into this one cinematic match. It was only 13 minutes, and it was so much fun. Absolutely enjoyed it. It ended with him hitting his signature go-to-sleep finisher, whatever it was called, Sister Abigail, I think was his finisher called, hitting it in the ring, winning the match. Absolutely loved it. And oddly, the official main event for WrestleMania 36 on night 2 is always considered the official main event, Drew McIntyre defeated Brock Lesnar to win the WWE Championship in 4.5 minutes. Absolutely squashed him. Kind of one of those matches where you're like, this would have been fun with the crowd, but it couldn't have gone longer with the crowd. They wrapped it up well. This WrestleMania, it worked with what it had, did its due diligence, but we'll leave it to the past. Next up, WrestleMania 37, which, WWE kind of thought, okay, we had this idea for a stage, this pirate themed for WrestleMania 36, didn't work out, but they still used the logo and stuff, and they pretty much just used the exact same logo and stage they had planned for WrestleMania 37. Ended up having it at Raymond James Stadium, and they were only allowed to hold, I believe, a quarter of those fans they could hold. So 25,675 fans exactly were able to get into Raymond James Stadium, separated on April 10th and 11th, respectively, in 2021. And this WrestleMania was a fun one. I actually haven't seen any matches from this WrestleMania. I've never gone around to watching them, but from what I've been told, from what I've seen, I know a pretty good deal about it overall. And, night 1, fun stuff. We finally get a crowd back. You had 7 matches. Kicking off the night, Bobby Lashley defeating Drew McIntyre to retain the WWE Championship. Of course, they had been feuding for the longest time now. You had Natalya and Tamina winning a tag team turmoil match. Cesaro and Seth Rollins had a singles match with Cesaro coming out on top. Cesaro, one of my favorite technical wrestlers, a real master of the craft, really knows the wrestling game, if you know what I'm saying. He is a master at what he does. After that, AJ Styles and Omos defeating the New Day to win the Raw Tag Team Championship. Okay. Braun Strowman defeating Shane McMahon in a steel cage match, where if you could guess it, Braun Strowman threw Shane McMahon off the top of the steel cage. Brutal stuff. Fun times. There was that. Second to last match, we had Bad Bunny that's right, the singer, the worldwide global singer, teaming with Damian Priest to defeat The Miz and John Morrison in a tag team match. Bad Bunny, actually an amazing wrestler, surprisingly. Main event for night 1 of WrestleMania 37, you had Bianca Belair defeating Sasha Banks to win the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks becoming the first black women to ever headline WrestleMania, breaking history. Never saw the match, but I did hear it was actually a very good technical match, and Bianca Belair was on absolute fire at the time. Happy to see her getting the win. But we get to night 2, which is where all the heaters, I was told, took place. Kicking off the night, Randy Orton defeating The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, in a singles match. I believe it was one of the final times Bray Wyatt competed at WrestleMania. After that, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler retaining the Women's Tag Team Championship. Okay. Kevin Owens defeating Sami Zayn with Logan Paul in his corner. By the way, this was the early stages of Logan Paul soon getting into the ring, which he would end up doing at next year's WrestleMania. After that, Sheamus defeated Riddle to win the United States Championship. Apollo Crews defeated Big E to win the Intercontinental Championship. And in the co-main event, Rhea Ripley defeated Asuka to win the Raw Women's Championship. And it all led up to one of the best triple threat matches of all time. I really have to watch this, as Roman Reigns, who was officially the tribal chief, the man you know him as today, defeated Edge and Daniel Bryan to retain the WWE Universal Championship. An almost 23-minute match. I've heard this is some of the best wrestling, best kickouts, amazing stuff. The best work of Daniel Bryan in Edge's career. This would be Daniel Bryan's final WrestleMania appearance, actually. Roman Reigns would just be getting started on his legendary run. He's currently on. Fun WrestleMania. Haven't seen it, but if there's one match I'm going to watch, it would have to be that triple threat main event. Well, I'll tell you what I have watched. I've watched the last 2 WrestleManias. WrestleMania 38, which went down in April of 2022 in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium. Night 1, 77,899 people. Night 2, 78,453. This event was loaded. It was labeled the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. Winner take all, championship unification, as Brock Lesnar, your WWE champion, took on Roman Reigns, your Universal champion, to unify the belts into one giant one. It was fun. Combined attendance for both nights, 131,372. Are you kidding me? So much fun. Celebrities went absolutely crazy at this. I mean, of course, Logan Paul was in a tag team match here. You had Johnny Knoxville competing in an Anything Goes match on this card. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders were also on stage for Pat McAfee's match at this WrestleMania. Brantley Gilbert, I believe, sang America the Beautiful. Absolutely fun stuff. This WrestleMania stage was incredible, and this is one of the better WrestleManias. This was a fun one. It was, in the last few years, last 4 that we've done these 2 nights, this was one of those where night 1 kind of outshined night 2. Kicking off night 1, you had the Usos defeating Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs by a pinfall. Actually, unfortunately, Rick Boogs injured himself in this match and had to be cut short, but we were just seeing how dominant the Usos were. Of course, as they teamed with Roman Reigns, essentially, in their bloodline, as they called it. After that, Drew McIntyre would squash Happy Corbin in a singles match, also known as Baron Corbin. And then The Miz and Logan Paul delivered some great wrestling against Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. And it really showed that Logan Paul's a good professional wrestler. Really caught me off guard. Amazing stuff. I was happy to see it. After that, you had Bianca Belair, who main evented night 1 of last year's WrestleMania, defeating Becky Lynch to win the Raw Women's Championship. Fun stuff, was able to pin her. Great moment, Bianca Belair, fun wrestler. After that, you had the best match from this WrestleMania as Cody Rhodes returns after years. He was previously with AEW, essentially created AEW after he was on the New Japan scene, and he returns. Absolutely amazing pop when he comes out. Faces Seth Rollins in a 21-minute plus match, and it is one of the best wrestling matches I have ever watched. Great kickouts, great moments. Cody Rhodes, and who would have thought with him returning here, he would end up main eventing the next 2 WrestleManias. Gosh, what an absolute legend. Second last match, we had Charlotte Flair defeating Ronda Rousey to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. And in the main event, out of nowhere, you had Kevin Owens hosting. He was hosting the Kevin Owens show, which is essentially just, they just filmed him in the ring. And Stone Cold Steve Austin came out. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, I believe 10 years, 15 years since his last WrestleMania match, he fought Kevin Owens in the main event and beat him in a no-holds-barred match. It was a crazy, crazy moment. Stone Cold Steve Austin was taking hits. He was eating so many things. I was worried for Stone Cold's health, but the legend, the Texas Rattlesnake, gets it done. Hits Kevin Owens with a finisher, his little stunner finisher, and man, Stone Cold Steve Austin main evented and won night 1 of WrestleMania 38. Such a fun moment. Night 2 got us going. I mean, just as fun as night 1. Randy Orton and Riddle defeating the Street Profits and Alpha Academy in a triple threat tag team match. That was kind of lame. Bobby Lashley defeating Omos. It was there. Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn in an Anything Goes match was essentially Jackass. This is, Johnny Knoxville's show brought to the big screen. As he would brought to WWE, they had these giant mouse traps. They had him falling through glass, through tables. He was getting hit with random stuff. It was a fun match. And Johnny Knoxville ended up winning, which makes it even better. Then had a women's tag team championship match, fatal 4-way, just to throw them all in there. Then Edge defeated AJ Styles in a singles match, 24 minutes. Probably one of the last few times we ever saw Edge in WrestleMania. Fun seeing him there. Then had a tag team match between Sheamus and Ridge Holland defeating the New Day, which lasted 1 minute and 40 seconds. One of those oddly, just no need for it. Then Pat McAfee defeated Austin Theory in under 10 minutes. That's right, Pat McAfee. Absolutely amazing ring presence. Couldn't believe the stuff he was doing. And then afterwards, Mr. McMahon had a match with Pat McAfee for some reason. Mr. McMahon comes out and pins Pat McAfee. It was so random. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out, hits a stunner on everybody, including Mr. McMahon. Just some nostalgia. So random. No idea what to make of it. We then got into the labeled winner-takes-all match for the WWE Championship and WWE Universal Championship, the greatest match of all time, and Roman Reigns essentially beat Brock Lesnar in 12 minutes in a casual match, and it was so lame. There was no big moments in here. There was nothing big. Roman Reigns literally just speared Brock Lesnar and won. It was that 12 minutes for the main event. Not that entertaining. Night 1 superseding night 2 by a lot. And it was just a mediocre main event. I've seen better matches between these two, and it kind of showed that we were done doing Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Absolutely. After that, we got to WrestleMania 39, last year's WrestleMania. So much fun. The giant spectacle going down in Inglewood, California at SoFi Stadium. It was kind of Hollywood themed. 80,000 plus on night one, 81,000 plus on night two for this absolutely loaded event. And it was Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns in the main event of night number two. Kind of went with the same tagline they did for WrestleMania 21 with WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, which is kind of fun to see. This one was absolutely loaded. And of course, you already know they had to bring out celebrities for this. You had Kevin Hart, Becky G, Jimmy Allen. You had George Kittle coming out. Snoop Dogg was there. Bad Bunny. I mean, you even had KSI was in this one. Lil Uzi Vert was there. It was absolutely goofy. It was fun. And you know what? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this WrestleMania. Night one, you know, it was an odd WrestleMania. I'll say that for certain as I'm looking back on this. But we get going. Night one, Austin Theory starts off the night defeating John Cena for the United States Championship. And, you know, in the last few years, John Cena has fulfilled this role of trying to put over other superstars. But it's become so apparent it's not working. And actually, after this match, Austin Theory has lost all his momentum. And where some people thought Austin Theory was going to be a future WWE champion, he has since kind of just fallen onto the, you know, average fighter card, if you will. But yeah, John Cena opening WrestleMania, it was kind of just like, okay, John, you don't need to keep putting over superstars. We want to see him win one more time. After that, you had a men's WrestleMania Showcase Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Championship match where the Street Profits defeated Braun Strowman and Ricochet, Alpha Academy, Viking Raiders. Yeah, good moments. After that, Seth Rollins and Logan Paul giving us some of the best wrestling of the night. You even had this fun moment where Logan Paul jumped off the top of the ring post outside to the announce table and landed on KSI when Seth Rollins pulled him on. KSI was wearing the giant Prime logo. It was pretty comical. After that, you had a 6-woman tag team match, which essentially just jamming all the women on there. You then had Rey Mysterio defeating his son, Dominic Mysterio, his actual real-life son, in a 15-minute match. Great for the family there. Must have been fun. After that, Rhea Ripley defeated Charlotte Flair to win the SmackDown Women's Championship in an almost 24-minute match. Rhea Ripley was so over. Made sense. Pat McAfee then defeated The Miz in a random singles match, pinning him in under 4 minutes. Pat McAfee undefeated at WrestleMania. Can you believe it? Main event of night one of WrestleMania, a tag team match for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship match. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defeating the Usos, and the crowd was absolutely electric for this. The Usos had held the Tag Team Championship for so long, at least like 2 or 3 years, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn finally overtook them, hitting like triple finishers at the same time. The crowd was going electric, and they thought it was the complete downfall of the Bloodline. But little did they know what they had in store for night number 2. As we got to night number 2, we kicked off the evening with Brock Lesnar defeating Omos, the 7-foot giant, in a 5-minute squash match, essentially. And this will actually be the last time you probably ever see Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, as he is apparently a creep. Might even be a sex offender. Him and Vince McMahon were doing some really weird things. I don't even know what to make of it. And Brock Lesnar might not have done anything with women, but he was being sent videos of women, apparently. I don't know what to make of it. It's all allegations at the moment. But you know what, Brock Lesnar, I am a fan of you, so please don't let me down. After that, you had a WrestleMania's Women's Showcase Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Championship match. Just like the men's, they just threw a bunch of superstars in here. Then had Gunther defeating Sheamus and Drew McIntyre to retain the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther actually is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history. He's a great wrestler. You should see his rise from the independent scene to now being in the WrestleMania category. I mean, he's gotten in such good shape. Fun to see. Bianca Belair then defeated Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship to retain. You know, she's so over. Fun seeing that. Then Snoop Dogg defeated The Miz in a singles match in 2 minutes. I'm not even going to give that time of day. And then finally, the last time you're probably going to see Edge at WrestleMania, he defeated Finn Balor in a Hell in a Cell match. 18 minutes plus. It was brutal. It was fun. I love watching Edge. And you know what? If he went out with that win over Finn Balor, I wouldn't be too mad, because it was a fun match. And then we got to the main event. And, you know, Roman Reigns' entrance here is undoubtedly one of the best WrestleMania entrances I've ever seen. The crowd was so behind Cody Rhodes. It was absolutely amazing for the singles match for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And this match went almost 35 minutes. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns absolutely delivering the kickouts, the moments. And then it ends, and Solo Sikoa interferes right when Cody Rhodes is going to win. Roman Reigns hits Cody Rhodes with a spear, pins him, and, it was kind of like, Roman Reigns needed help to beat Cody Rhodes. It was kind of a sour touch on the evening. Roman Reigns, the bad guy, winning again thanks to outside help. And it's kind of just been a recurring thing that without help, Roman Reigns cannot actually fully win. So it was fun. Good WrestleMania. The spectacle rages on. And we'll be back on the next episode of the Surprise Jab Podcast to give our WrestleMania 40 predictions as Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes will main event night 2 of WrestleMania, and they'll actually be facing each other in a tag team match on night 1 when The Rock teams with his cousin Roman Reigns to take on Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. It is WrestleMania 40 gearing up to be one of the biggest of all time as we head to Lincoln Financial Stadium. I believe this is the first time WrestleMania has ever been at the Lincoln Financial Stadium in its 40-year history. Oh man, we got some fun matches ahead. That's all the wrestling talk we got for today's episode. Like I said, so many great moments. WrestleMania 35 to 39, a changing of the guard, out with the old, in with the new. Some of it's made me sad, some of it's made me happy, but the majority, the spectacle, the production of WrestleManias has gotten far, far better. Amazing times, fun stuff, and we progress. We move on, and we're moving at a great pace, and I'll tell you something, the spectacle that just never fails to amaze me, and that is March Madness. We have had, what have we had now? We have 8 games in the Sweet 16, 4 in the Sweet 16. We've had 12 games so far. Let me talk about the final 4 teams that are now left in the final 4. We're going to go through the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and then we'll get down to the final 4 for each of the divisions, or the regions, South, East, Midwest, and West. So without a doubt, let's talk about it and see who is in the men's final 4 going down in Phoenix this Saturday and Monday for College Division I basketball. Sweet 16 was absolutely jam-packed with action. I mean, let's start off in the East region. We had UConn taking on San Diego, the number 1 seed UConn, the number 5 seeded San Diego State, and sadly UConn, they're just too freaking good, blowing out San Diego State 82 to 52. They won by 30. They won by freaking 30. They out-rebounded them 50 to 29, which is absolutely crazy. I will say San Diego State was not hitting their 3-pointers. 5 for 22. That'll definitely be costly. Other than that, I mean, the rebounds is really the big thing here. UConn, starting guard Castle had 16 points, 11 rebounds. Klingon, their star center, he had 8 points, 8 rebounds, pretty solid. He actually popped off more in the Elite 8 game. And Daera off the bench at guard, he had 10 points as well. UConn, they just cannot be stopped. They cannot be stopped, man. And the other Sweet 16 matchup for the East, you had Illinois taking on Iowa State, a competitive game down to the wire, 72 to 69. The Fighting Illini just came out on top in the end, and really there was really like a huge difference here. It was just a competitive game, back and forth the whole way. Star players. Let me see. Terrell Shannon, man. Their star guard, he had 29 points. My goodness, very impressive stuff there. Actually, or did he have 16? I don't know. I think the site's messing up for some reason. He had almost like 30 points. He was very impressive, as well as Domask. He was their starting guard, and Iowa State just couldn't put together a starting guard Gilbert. He was able to put up 14, but the Fighting Illini just came out on top. Fun stuff. And then we got into our Elite 8 matchup in UConn, blew out Illinois 77 to 52, including going on a 30-0 run to start off the second half. Absolutely crazy. Where do I even begin with this team? They got 45 rebounds, which is absolutely crazy. 15 more defensive. They had 21 assists compared to 7 for Illinois. 10 blocks compared to 4. Klingon, 22 points, 10 rebounds. That's what I was looking like. It's Cam Spencer, 11 points, 12 rebounds. Very impressive. Daera off the bench at 11. I mean, Domask, starting guard for Illinois, 17 points. They held their star player, Terrell Shane Jr., to only 8 points, 2 of 12 from the field. And Illinois just couldn't hit anything. UConn, your number one seed, your most favorited team to win, looking to repeat for the first time since Florida did in 2007. Yeah, UConn in your Final Four. Moving down to the west part of the bracket, we had one of the bigger upsets of the tournament as number 4 seeded Alabama upsets number 1 seeded UNC, the North Carolina Tar Heels, getting it done. Wow, just wow. I mean, I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what happened to this freaking UNC team. I mean, Mondo Baca, 19 points. You had RJ Davis, 16 points. What is it? Ryan, what's his name? Oh, is it Cam Ryan? No, it's something like, he's a very interesting name. C. Ryan, whatever his name is. It'll come to me. But I mean, yeah, just super impressive. Alabama, Mark Sears, 18 points. 18 points, super impressive. I mean, Grant Nelson, the center for, or a forward, actually. He's not their center. He's essentially their center. Was it Grant Nelson, whatever. Absolutely going off, 24 points, 12 rebounds. And it just came down. Alabama was just on fire, lighting it up down the stretch. Big plays down there, big plays, big moves, whatever. Big plays, whatever. Sketch says. That's what I'm thinking of, Sketch, the streamer. Man, Alabama, impressive stuff. They would move on to the Elite Eight. Their opponent was Clemson, number 6 seeded Clemson Tigers, who upset the number 2 seeded Arizona Wildcats. Just held them in check in their Sweet 16 game. PJ Hall, 17 points, did great. C. Hunter, 18 points. He also did well. They held Caleb Love to 13 points, 0 for 9 from 3. Yeah, Clemson went to the Elite Eight. And then when it came down the stretch, Alabama edges out Clemson 89-82. I mean, this was a basketball game playing with football teams. I mean, are you kidding me? Alabama hit 8 more three-pointers than Clemson. Certainly something. They had 11 more rebounds. And Mark Sears, 23 points, 7 for 14 from 3. He was on absolute fire. And Jay Stevenson off the bench, 19 points, 7 for 11 from the field. Alabama will take on UConn in the Final Four. It's been an incredible run, but I mean, UConn in their last 2 tournaments have now won every game by double digits. And in this tournament so far, they've had a 39-point win in round 1. They have had a 17-point win in round 2. 30-point win in the Sweet 16, and now a 25-point win in the Elite Eight. They're going in the Final Four with so much momentum. Alabama has been in close games in all 4 of their matchups. UConn's going to the championship. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen. UConn is just too good this year. I am excited for the matchup. I am very excited. So far for the season, Alabama does have a better field goal percentage. They do hit more three-pointers, more free throws, more rebounds, more single thing, but they are playing in the SEC compared to UConn, who plays in the Big East. I mean, just, oh my God. So far, just UConn dominant. And a lot of my brackets, I had UConn. As I figured, you always got to pick the favorite team in center brackets. It's just kind of unfortunate to see that they're actually just that dominant. But Alabama, we'll see if you put up a fight. It's looking like UConn's going to return to the championship and probably win. Moving to the South, we had number 1 seed Houston taking on number 4 seeded Duke, and the Blue Devils did it. They advanced to the Elite Eight in this matchup against Houston. Pretty crazy. They both shot 20 for 49 from the field. Very interesting. They took the exact same number of shots and made the same number amount. The other day, this just came down to the fact that Houston lost Mal Sheed, their starting player, only played 13 minutes before he hurt his left ankle. That proved the difference maker. Filipowski, 16 points, 9 rebounds, made 3 threes. Jared McCain had 7 points. Pretty quiet game from him. Jeremy Roach, 14 points for him. Dominant stuff for the Blue Devils. It was competitive down to the wire, but Duke did advance to the Elite Eight. And I know my cousin Ryan was hyped. We've had him on the podcast before. He's a big Blue Devils fan. Their opponent in the Elite Eight was none other than the red-hot NC State, North Carolina State, who beat Marquette, number 2 seeded in the Sweet 16, 67-58. Just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. This NC State team on absolute fire. DJ Burns, pretty quiet game. Only 4 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. pretty quiet. Really, it was Horn, or was it Daryl Horn, DJ Horn, whatever it is, their starting guard. 19 points from him was pretty excellent. Diarra, their forward, had 15 rebounds and 11 points. This NC State team is on absolute fire. They were supposed to not even be in the tournament. They somehow made it into the in the ACC tournament. They managed to win the entire ACC. They've gone in on an absolute run, beating Texas Tech, beating Oakland, beating Marquette, and they matched up with Duke. And let me just say, this was a hype matchup, a rematch from the ACC tournament when North Carolina beat them, and my gosh darn it, NC State beats Duke and will be going to the Final Four. Insane, 76-64. They just had Duke's number. Everywhere. It was absolutely amazing. And Jared McCain, 32 points, scored just about all of Duke's points. 5 of 11 from 3. Cal Filipowski, 11 points, 9 rebounds, trying to do most he could. Tyrese Proctor, starting guard, 0 points, 0 for 9 from the field, 0 for 5 from the three-point line. Didn't anything. Jeremy McCain, 11 for 11 from free throw. Cal Filipowski, 5 for 5. Impressive free throw shooting. Jeremy Roach had 13, only 2 bench points from the 2 players that came off the bench. Ugh. DJ Burns, the star from NC State. This guy's an absolute stud. He's so likable. He was smiling. He was dancing. His dad was so lively in the crowd. 29 points, 13 for 19 from the field. He was getting and ones. He was getting dunks. He was just putting the moves, hitting the mid-rangers. This guy is a star. He's the star player of this tournament. There's always one star player that breaks out. It was DJ Burns Jr. Don't forget about Daryl Horn, DJ Horn, whatever his name is, 20 points, starting guard. Impressive stuff. Absolutely love this NC State team, and they will be advancing to your Final Four, an 11 seed in the Final Four. And I actually did predict them in, I think, 1 or 2 of my brackets actually making the Final Four. And son of a gun, the team they're playing, let's talk about them. First off, let's head to the Sweet 16 in the Midwest. Purdue versus Gonzaga. Competitive, 80-68 win for the Boilermakers. Gonzaga had it close majority of the game, but Purdue just came out in the end. Zach Edey, 27 points, 14 rebounds. Insane. Rest of the team, also very helpful. What more do you want me to say? Zach Edey is this team. Gonzaga, not too bad this year. Made a little Sweet 16 run. As a 5 seed, I think a lot of people were sleeping on them. Were able to knock off McNeese, beat Kansas. Unfortunately, they fell to the mighty Purdue. Their opponent in this Elite 8 was none other than Tennessee. Tennessee and Creighton having an absolute barn burner of a game. I believe that went on, what was that? Was that Friday? I think it was Friday, actually. They did battle, and competitive down the wire. I mean, it's just even down the whole path. And I mean, the starting players for Creighton, I mean, Shimmerman, their star center, 25 points. Amazing. Ashworth, their guard, 16. He shot 4 for 6 from 3. Impressive. But man, Tennessee, Dalton Connect, 26 points, 3 for 7 from 3. Even at Ziegler, their guard, 18 points for him. I mean, just this Tennessee team was fun. But man, oh man, when it came down to who wanted to go to the Final Four more, Purdue overpowers Tennessee in my favorite. Gotta be one of my favorite, if not the most competitive Elite 8 matchup. Boilermakers win 72-66, and it was the rebounds, 47-26. They had 21 more rebounds than Tennessee. Just could not get past Zach Edey. 40 points for Zach Edey, a new career high, 16 rebounds. He was at the free throw line 22 times. He took 22 free throws, made 14 of them. Holy cow. You even had Al Foyer, starting guard, 14 points. The Boilermakers weren't even doing well from 3. They did not do well from 3. They only made, I think, 3 threes the whole game. But man, oh man, Zach Edey is an absolute stud. And man, I can't wait for it. Purdue versus NC State in the Final Four. I know it's the first time Alabama's been in the Final Four. I think it's the first time that Purdue and NC State have been in the Final Four since the 80s, I believe, if I'm thinking that correctly. Absolutely pumped for this matchup. NC State and Purdue, and Zach Edey, just all eyes on Zach Edey, who's been an absolute stud. What does he average? He's averaged 12 rebounds per game, Since I can tell me how many points they average. Gosh darn it, March Madness live site. But yeah, the Wolfpack and the Boilermakers will go down at 5 o'clock on Saturday night. As for UConn and Alabama, that will be the 7:49 game. Excited all around for that matchup. I mean, just, oh my God, what more do you want for? What more can I ask for? Okay, this game's on TBS. Are they both on? Oh, this TBS on the Final Four rights this year? That's unfortunate. I hate it because CBS is a public site, but TBS and TNT are not. Oh well, but yeah, UConn and Alabama. I got right with UConn. Purdue and NC State. I want NC State, but I gotta predict Purdue. And when it comes down to Purdue versus UConn, I'm a ride with Purdue. I mean, it's so fitting, when 2019 Virginia, they lost to a 16 seed the year before. They won it the next year. It's feeling like that's happening with Purdue. Zach Edey, an absolute stud. The team all around him is great. But man, if DJ Burns can beat him, we'll see. But I do ride with UConn and Purdue in the championship, and we'll pick Purdue. But you know what? If UConn wins, I won't be mad. I won't really be mad with anything that happens. I just have fun watching these games. It's a blast. March Madness, my favorite time. My favorite sports time of the year. It honestly, it rivals some of these big UFC events, like just watching all the games, making the brackets. It's been fun, and should we have really predicted a 1-4 and a 1-11? It seems easy to predict now that it's all through. I mean, it hasn't been an easy run. UConn and Purdue, they've kind of make it look easy. NC State may look easy. Alabama, tough games, but I really think that that NC State had a tough run here. I mean, they've won like 8 or 9 games straight now. Alabama certainly been some tough games for them. Certainly the UNC and Clemson game really pushed them. But UConn, it's looked effortless for UConn. We'll see if Mark Sears in Alabama, Grant Nelson can get it done, but we'll see. It'll be the Wolfpack, the Boilermakers, the Huskies, and the Crimson Tide. But that'll do it for our March Madness talk. Alrighty, let's get into our final piece of the episode, as we'll be recapping UFC Atlantic City, which went down this past Saturday. A little torn if I want to talk about it, as we did atrocious on picks, guys. I'm so sorry. I know you guys are supposed to come to me for your picks. I'm supposed to bring you the knowledge. We went 4-9 on our predictions. Oh my gosh, so bad. Only 4 correct picks. 2 were on the main card, though. I do pride myself on main card picks over prelims, but overall just was not our night whatsoever. Weird stuff all around. We've got 13 fights to talk about. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right after it. We kicked off this card, which, by the way, has been better than the past Apex events, in my opinion. And we had a little bantamweight action between Callan Lorraine and Angel Pacheco. And I was torn on our prediction show. Do I ride with the Minnesota boy Pacheco or the Don Callan Lorraine? And the Don Callan Lorraine, the Ireland boy, got it done, getting his first win in the UFC, his 9th win overall. The young Callan Lorraine, only 27 years old, pretty much just used everything. I mean, outstruck him. Actually, round 1 was pretty close. Angel was outstriking him a bit more, but Callan was doing some more damage. Round 2, Callan just completely outstrikes him, 51-17, significantly. 1 of 1 on takedowns, had 3 minutes of control time. Round 2 went 2 of 3 on takedowns. Angel was able to get up more, but got outstruck 54-25. Showed some real heart in this one, but nonetheless, Callan Lorraine gets it done. Getting a good win here. He'll remain in the UFC. As for Angel, you've now lost on the Contender Series. You lost in your UFC debut. You're giving Minnesota a bad rep, my boy. Come on, disappointed Angel, but good win for Callan Lorraine. We'll see you next time. Next up, this is when things got weird. First off, before I say this, 8 knockouts on this card tied the all-time record for events. So the most knockouts for an event is 8, and this event actually tied it. There were 8 knockouts on this event. No submissions. No submissions on this card. Pretty interesting. Second fight up, as I was about to say, Jacob Malkoun versus Andrei Petrovsky, and I don't even know what to make of this. First off, round 1. Andrei Petrovsky, you know what? Jacob Malkoun striking looks a bit better, but Andrei is able to get a takedown late in the round, kind of like sold the deal. It was pretty close, pretty competitive. Okay. We go to round 2. Okay, we're barely 30 seconds in. Andrei Petrovsky, he goes in for a takedown. Andrei Petrovsky, turns And this is from the official UFC website, because Andre Petroski just went down to the ground. It wasn't even like knocked out. He was just like holding his like stomach, his like neck or whatever. Like, it was so weird. The official details from the UFC website is kick to body on ground. Petroski hit head on takedown attempt. So Andre Petroski's chin must be so weak, he hit his head while shooting for a takedown on Jacob Malkoun's hip and essentially knocked himself out for a second and went down. So embarrassing. I cannot believe I even picked you, Andre Petroski. And I'm actually a fan. I'm actually a fan of Andre Petroski, and he does this to me. Round 2 kick knockout for Jacob Malkoun. Absolutely crazy. Jacob Malkoun getting his 3rd career knockout, which is his 3rd career finish. 8th win overall. He now is on a little win streak. You know what? Good for him. He probably should be on a 3-fight win streak, but we'll let that slide. You know what? Good win for him. As for Andre, you know, he started out his UFC career 5-0, 3 finishes, has since been knocked out in his last 2 fights. I'm sure he'll be fighting some other random middleweight. I actually have an idea of whom as we go up the card, but just pitiful, embarrassing. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're doing, Andre, but as for Jacob Malkoun, you did nothing wrong. Good win for you, Jacob. You know, usually you're a grappler. You just got a knockout. Good win for you. Next fight up, though, I'm torn. This one fight of the night, Ibo Aslan versus Anton Turkaljic. This one fight of the night, but I'm thinking this is actually going to be my number 2 for fight of the night, like moment. But Ibo Aslan, Anton Turkaljic, round 3 knockout for Ibo Aslan. Ibo Aslan getting his 13th career knockout. His 13th career knockout, by the way. He's got 13 wins. 1 loss. Who was that 1 loss to? The man he just knocked out, Anton Turkaljic. The rematch did not disappoint. And let me just tell you, from the get-go, these two were just swinging for the fences. Anton Turkaljic actually outstruck Ibo 21-17 in round 1. Ibo started picking up the pace more in round 2, 44-23. Then round 3, about a minute and a half in, Ibo landed a huge big overhand, knocked down Anton, and the ref stopped it. Gary Copeland, first off, not the best reffing night for Gary Copeland. A lot of early stoppages. Gary was not having any ground and pound tonight. He was not having any of that, but Ibo Aslan, impressive stuff. Stuffed 8 takedowns. Anton Turkaljic beat him last time by submission. This time stuffs all 8 of Anton Turkaljic's attempts. And Ibo Aslan, super impressive. Round 1 knockout in Dana White's Contender Series. A round 3 knockout. We predicted a knockout for Ibo Aslan. Impressive stuff. I absolutely loved it. I'm excited to see what's next for this light heavyweight. I'm excited for it. As much as Anton Turkaljic has lost, I mean, this guy is 0-4 in the UFC. All 4 of those have been his professional losses, but the finishes to Tyson Pedro and Halton Almeida, his other 2 losses, fight of the nights. I mean, Anton does not disappoint when he's in the octagon. I understand he hasn't won yet, but I kind of want to keep him around, see what else he can do. As for Ibo Aslan, I mean, there's so many light heavyweights out there you could fight. I don't really have one off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's someone out there for Ibo Aslan. Impressive stuff, though. Impressive stuff from Ibo Aslan. Very happy for him. And he's from, where's Ibo Aslan from? Istanbul, Turkey. He's from Turkey. As you may have, if you listened to our past show, you know we were supposed to actually have a women's flyweight bout between Victoria Dudikova and Melissa Gatto. That fight was canceled moments before walkout as Victoria Dudikova was ruled unmedically cleared to compete. She was kind of dizzy before the fight, and they gave her some medicine, and they were like, no, that's not going to fly. So that fight was canceled, unfortunately, because I think Victoria would have won and given me another correct pick. Oh, gosh. But Ibo, I predicted you correctly. After that, we went on a big L streak of not predicting fights correctly. First up, Dennis Bazukja taking on Connor Matthews, and we got our first performance of the night as Dennis the Great Bazukja, might as well call him Dennis Bazooka, knocks out Connor Matthews in round number 3. Very impressive. Dennis Bazukja getting his 5th career knockout, his 6th career finish, his 12th career win, snapping a 2-fight losing streak. And Dennis just had Connor's number this whole fight. Connor Matthews just did not belong in there. You know, he looked good on Dana White's Contender Series, but man, he did not belong in that octagon. Round 1, Dennis outstrikes him 38-24. It was just looking more crisp. Round 2, Connor made it closer, landed a takedown. 37 significant strikes to 36, only a 1-point advantage. But we're 22 seconds in. Conor looked like he was fading. He had that Navy SEAL mentality, as he called it. But Dennis Buzukja proved this ain't the ops. Okay, that we're not in the core. Okay, we're in an octagon, and Dennis Buzukja knocks him out, lands a big punch to the head. Conor stumbles backwards, falls down, and thankfully, Who was the ref for this fight? Keith Peterson. Of course it was Keith. Actually, Keith Peterson usually has some quick stoppages, but Keith Peterson let it go, gave him some opportunities, but unfortunately had to be stopped. Dennis Buzukja earning $50K, keeping your name on the roster. I'm happy for him. Honestly, I'm happy for him. And if anything, I just need to know not to always pick Dana White's Contender Series fighters. I honestly just have to remember not to do that. But I mean, Dennis Buzukja, impressive stuff. Next up, Julio Ars, Herbert Burns, both coming off of almost 2-year layoffs. And Julio Ars gets his 6th career knockout, and Herbert Burns sucks. Herbert Burns sucks. I don't care if Herbert Burns somehow hears this. You are just not cut out for the UFC. Julio Ars is legit. Round 1, Herbert Burns goes 0-5 on takedowns. Okay, barely outstrikes Julio Ars. Kind of competitive. Round 2, gasses out. He gassed out after round 2, okay? And there were some eye pokes that kept messing him up. Oh, no, it wasn't even eye pokes. He kept kneeing Julio Ars, and he got a point taken. He hit 2 illegal knees in a row and got a point taken. Round 2, in the 2 minutes that round 2 lasted, Julio Ars dropped him twice. Herbert Burns did not even look conscious, and Herbert Burns has now lost 3 straight fights, and all of them he's been knocked out. And as for Julio Ars, last fought in 2022, comes back, gets a knockout. I love him. He'll stay relevant in the featherweight division, but Herbert Burns, him and Gilbert, sadly on their way out. The Burns twins are no longer going to be in the UFC for much longer, especially Herbert. Herbert sucks. Gilbert's actually good, but Herbert Burns, what were you doing? Just got knocked out silly. Absolutely silly. After that, we head into some ranked women's strawweight action as number 5 ranked Virna Jandiroba took on number 10 ranked Lupi Godinez. And, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this. First off, I think the judges got this wrong, if I'm being honest. I thought Lupi Godinez won this, but somehow Virna Jandiroba wins this by unanimous decision, and Chris Lee even scored it 30-27. I guess I was watching a different fight. I don't know what I was watching, but totals from the fight, 38 significant strikes to 30 in favor of Lupi. Total strikes 86-50 in favor of Virna Jandiroba. 2 of 9 on takedowns for Virna Jandiroba for 6.5 minutes. And I mean, as we go through the fight, it was just competitive. Round 2, there were some submission attempts. I thought Lupi won round 3. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's going to the judges' scorecard, they grade women's fights differently, and Virna Jandiroba got it done. Virna Jandiroba now on a 3-fight win streak, all of those by boring grappling decision. And she's somehow going to be the number 5, still being ranked number 5 in the world. Oh man, Lupi Godinez's 4-fight win streak is snapped. This just makes me sad. Guys. I cannot take this. I can't take it anymore. Just depressing. It's depressing. But Virna Jandiroba wins. And let me be honest. As we look at the women's strawweight rankings, she's not going to beat Zhang Weili. She's not going to beat Yan Xiaonan. She won't beat Tatiana Serrano. She won't be Amanda Ribas. She's not going to beat anyone above her, so I don't know what to do with her. The winner of Jessica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez, that's who Virna Jandiroba can fight. Quite simply, I don't know what to do with her. And as for Lupi Godinez, I think you got robbed. You'll probably fight someone, maybe the winner of Jillian Robertson and Michelle Warson Gomez. You can fight the winner of them. That fight goes down in a couple of weeks. So there you go. You got that, but I mean, just boring fights. Boring. But then we got to our final prelim, and I cannot believe this was even on the prelims. And I'm so glad I switched my pick from Jamal Emmers to Nate the Train Landwehr, as Nate Landwehr gets a round 1 knockout in typical Nate Landwehr fashion. We open up the fight. In the first 2 minutes, I thought Nate Landwehr was going to get knocked out. Okay, Jamal Emmers was teeing off on him. Nate was bleeding everywhere. And then halfway through the round, there was sort of a changing of the tides. Suddenly, Nate Landwehr started landing more, started teeing off. Suddenly, we're 30 seconds we're 30 seconds away from the final bell, and he's landing big, and he hits Jamal with a big uppercut. Jamal goes down, some follow-up punches, just a couple, and Jamal was out cold. He was out cold on the ground as Nate's just pounding on his face, and Nate Landwehr gets his 9th career knockout. Absolutely incredible. I absolutely loved it. Nate Landwehr lighting up the crowd. He was great on the mic, and that's right, earning himself a $50K performance bonus. Absolutely immaculate. And now he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. 4-1 in his last 5 fights. All of those wins, he's gotten a performance bonus. And I just absolutely incredible. Nate Landwehr, you are a stud. And first off, shout out to Jamal. You know, he took this fight on short notice. You know, he was coming off a knockout from November, but man, what did I tell you? You just can't hang with Nate Landwehr. And he called out Bryce Mitchell. Yeah, I'm in. Give him Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell currently ranked number 10 in the men's featherweight division. That's an exciting fight. I love it. Give it to me. Nate Landwehr, you're a stud. I correctly predicted this fight. Of the 4 fights I correctly predicted, thank goodness I got Nate Landwehr right. I'd have been so mad if Jamal Evers would have won, man. But Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train Landwehr, steaming on him. And then we got into our main card, and, you know, the only thing that made this card better than every other Apex card we had is the crowd. The crowd made this fight good, made this card good, despite the lacklusterness of fights. I mean, first off, we get into the main card. I correctly predicted Chidi and Chukani would win. All right, we nailed that pick. But this was boring. I don't even know how this was a split decision. This was atrocious. Rise McKee should not be in the UFC. Rise McKee should not be in the UFC. Okay, and first off, Manua Cuillero, who even are you, scored this fight 29-28 for Rise McKee. Rise McKee got outstruck 96-40. And went 0 of 7 on his takedowns. His 6 minutes of control time is from him just hugging Chidi against the fence because he couldn't strike with him. Raz McKee is now 0-4 in the UFC. Okay, 0-4 in UFC competition. Get him out. As for Chidi and Chukani, first win since May of 2022. Snaps a 3-fight losing streak. His 23rd win professionally. Happy for you. Tale of this fight is just Raz McKee could not stand with Chidi, so he kept hugging him. He couldn't even take him down. Chidi's defense was too good. And I was just like, Rise McKee, get out of here. Good win for Chidi Chukani at welterweight. I'll be interested to see what he does next. His gas tank looked better than his previous 3 fights. But I mean, just Rise McKee. Ugh. And the fact they scored the fight for him, one of the judges did, just riles me up. Good win, Chidi and Chukani. A lot of options for you. Then we got to featherweight. And Bill Algeo, this guy makes no sense. Bill Algeo, you make no sense. Senor Perfecto, they call him, alrighty. He gets TKO'd in round 1, standing TKO'd 4 minutes into round number 1. I heard it was an early stoppage, but I saw the highlights. He was getting rocked over and over. He kept stumbling. Of course it was Gary Copeland. Might I add, of course it was Gary Copeland. Gary Copeland is not a good ref, especially on this card. Kyle Nelson getting it done though. Good win for Kyle the Monster Nelson. His what is it now? His 6th career finish, 6th career knockout. His 10th career finish, 6th career knockout. Make it 3 straight wins, 4-fight unbeaten streak because he had a draw back in February last year. Good win for Kyle. As for Bill, this is why I said this makes no sense for me for Bill. Here's a guy, you know. He'll take Brendan Lonane, former PFL champion, to a decision. He'll have a fight of the night loss against Ricardo Ramos. He'll beat Johanderson Brito. He'll destroy Herbert Burns, which isn't that too impressive. He'll take Andre Feely to a split decision. He'll finish TJ Brown, dominate Alexander Hernandez, and then get TKO'd by Kyle Nelson. It made no sense. Might have been an early stoppage, but you can't get wobbled that much. Bill, you disappoint me. Kyle, good win for you. I'm just, you know what, I'm calling it how it is. Like I said, we're cruising through these fights. They're easy to talk about. Next up, we had my favorite fighter. I was so excited to watch him fight. Nursultan Ruzeboyev, the Uzbekistan, the 6'5" giant, taking on the criminal thug Cedriques Dumas. And Nursultan Ruzeboyev gets the round 1 finish, making it Nursultan Elbouyev's 12th career knockout, 32nd career finish, 34th career win. He is now finished 32 of his 34 wins, 2-0 in the UFC, both round 1 knockouts. And might I add, he might have poked Cedric Dumas in the eye. You know, Vitor Ribeiro, the referee, didn't really see it. It did, you know, and honestly, when he poked him in the eye, and then as he turned later on after it happened, like it looked like a punch in him. And plus, you can't turn your back when the ref doesn't stop it. You have to keep fighting until the ref stops it for an eye poke, okay? You can't just turn your back. Nursultan hits him with a deadly uppercut, drops him some follow-up punches. That was that. Cedric Dumas is not a likable guy. So happy he lost. He's now 2-2 in the UFC, so I'm sure he'll be back. But I think Cedric Dumas versus Andre Petrosky from earlier would be a great fight. I really like that. As for Nursultan, He's in the middleweight division. I don't really want to throw him to the wolves yet, but I mean, him versus someone like, do I dare say Roman? I feel like, Sutton beats a lot of the ranked guys like Roman Dolidze, Jack Hermanson. I feel like Sutton can stand with them. He makes me happy. He brings me joy. Thank you, Sutton Ruzabov. Thank you for getting a win. The final correct fighter I predicted of the card. And as we got into our final 3 fights, it was like bad, worse, just why. Okay, so we got it going. Chris Weidman, Bruno Silva. And this fight was a disaster. This fight was just an utter disaster. I don't even know what to make of it. First off, Bruno Silva somehow got outstruck in round 1 by Chris Weidman. 20 significant strikes to 4, 32 total strikes to 4, as Chris Weidman used his grappling. 1 of 2 on takedowns for 3 minutes of control time. Chris Weidman was looking good. Round 2, Chris Weidman teed off even more. 45 total significant strikes to 19. 0 of 2 on takedowns, but there was that. But Bruno Silva kept landing 2. And then, I understand that Chris Weidman was winning the fight, but Chris Weidman TKO'd him with an eye poke. He eye poked him, and so instead of calling off the fight, they went to a unanimous decision, only judging the 2 minutes that happened in round 3, and scored the fight for Chris Weidman. It should have been a disqualification. It should have been a no contest. He literally double eye poked him, and he went down, and then I don't even know. Guess who the referee was? It was Gary Copeland. Gary Copeland messing up again. What are you doing, Gary Copeland? Just disappointing. Just ridiculous. Chris Weidman, his first win since August of 2020. Good win for him. As for Bruno Silva, his 3rd straight loss. He's now 1-5 in his last 6. That might be the last time you see Bruno Silva in the octagon. But Chris Weidman, good win for you. No matter how sloppy it was. I mean, you won. A win's a win. But nonetheless, very, very odd circumstances. And you want to talk about odd circumstances, we get to our co-main event. As number 11 ranked Vicente Luque took on unranked Joaquin Buckley and gets TKO'd in round number 2. And this fight was suspicious. Let me say this was a suspicious fight. Good win for Buckley. He's getting his 13th career knockout. Very impressive. 3-0 now at welterweight. Joaquin Buckley did nothing wrong. Joaquin Buckley fought a fight. Round 1, competitive, even striking, 15 total strikes each, both significant. I think Vicente shooting for some takedowns at the end gave him round 1, but competitive. We get to round 2, and, we're striking back and forth. It's pretty competitive. And then Vicente kind of goes for a takedown, kind of fails, and just falls into guard, then just curls up. I don't know if he hurt himself, if something, internally, if he, tore something, and just we couldn't see. But he just curls up in a ball on the ground. He looked perfectly healthy. And Joaquin Buckley starts wailing on him, lands 40 significant strikes. And Keith Pearson has to call stop to it. And then Vicente just gets up like nothing's wrong. He's even clapping for Joaquin Buckley. I mean, we were in New Jersey. I think the mob was involved. I think Tony Soprano and his crew, I think the mob was involved. The Italian mafia had something to do with this. They had Vicente Luque take a bump, and they paid him for it. There's no other explanation. Vicente Luque is washed, though. Vicente Luque needs to retire. Okay, 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Had never been TKO'd in his career. He's now been TKO'd twice in his last 3 fights. Just Vicente Luque, you need to go. Joaquin Buckley, you stay. 3 wins at welterweight, 2 finishes, round 2 knockouts. Good stuff for you. You didn't do anything wrong unless you were in on it, Buckley, which I don't even know. It didn't even seem like Buckley was in on it. But Vicente Luque literally just accepts guard. We have a Brazilian black belt. We have a BJJ black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he just kind of gives up, just gets TKO'd. He's like, okay, I'm going to lose. Okay, that's it. That's it for me. That's it for me, guys. I suck. And I'm like, what? Just why? Vicente Luque, cut him from the UFC. I've seen enough of him. As for Joaquin Buckley, you're going to be ranked either 13th, 12th, 11th come Tuesday. Good stuff for you, but I mean, just weird. Just weird. And not even entertaining. Not even an entertaining finish on top of that. And then we got to our main event. Our women's flyweight main event between, mind you, the number 2 and number 3 women's flyweights in the world. And it was so boring. I turned it off and went to bed. It was that bad. Man Fiora beats Erin Blanchfield by unanimous decision, 50-45s across the board. Erin Blanchfield didn't win a single freaking round in her home state of New Jersey. Her people watching. And the crowd tried to make this entertaining, but Nothing was entertaining about this. Manny Fiora outstrikes Aaron Blanchfield in every single round. Totals 172, significant strikes 130, total strikes 181 to 135. Aaron Blanchfield goes 0 of 3 on takedowns. Manny Fiora goes 1 of 4. Couldn't even get a minute of control time. Quite honestly, I don't know what to make of this. Aaron Blanchfield almost submitted her in round number 1, but the striking didn't look on point. No big moments happened. This was sloppy. Clearly, this shouldn't have been the main event. The main event should have been Nate Landwehr. For goodness sakes, Nate Landwehr should have been the main event. And Manny Fiora extends her win streak to 12 straight wins. She's now 7-0 in the UFC, and I assume she'll be the number 1 contender. Actually, she'll probably be 2. She'll be the number 2 contender at flyweight, and she'll probably move up to 4 in the women's pound for pound, which says a lot, but nothing really impressive from Manny Fiora. Last 5 wins, all the boring decisions. As for Aaron Blanchfield, she just got her 9-fight win streak snapped, suffered her first loss in the UFC. Embarrassing. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. And this was boring. UFC 300 better help me. Brendan Allen next weekend. You better help me. Because, just nothing happened. Nothing went down in this matchup. I have no words. Manny Fiora, she'll fight the winner of Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso whenever they fight. They're filming The Ultimate Fighter, but Manny Fiora will get the next title shot. As for Aaron Blanchfield, she'll probably take on number 4 ranked Macy Barber, or even number 7 ranked Rose Namajunas. Options galore for her, but I'm not really a fan of a lot of people now. Right? I'm no longer a fan of Aaron Blanchfield, of Joaquin Buckley or Vicente Luque, of Chris Weidman or Bruno Silva. I'm more of a fan of Nosut Ruziboyev. Bill Algeo, I'm not a fan of. Nate Landwehr, I'm more of a fan of. Virna Jandiroba, now don't like her even more. Herbert Burns, I don't like you. And Andre Petroski, you got knocked out to a hip. What more do you want me to say? Main card kind of disappointed. Prelims were way better than the main card, but fear not, ladies and gentlemen, fear not. Despite this lackluster card, despite just the string of lackluster cards, as I look at the events for the year, the only good fight night so far has been the first one of the year, Ankalaev versus Walker. Other than that, our 3 pay-per-views have been amazing, but other than that, every fight night kind of is less down. Mexico wasn't too bad. The Mexican card wasn't too bad, but at the same time, it still wasn't up to par. We head to the Apex, and I have no idea what to expect. I'm just going to expect the worst. Brendan Allen does fight in the main event. I am a fan of Brendan Allen, number 6 middleweight in the world. You also have Morgan Sheree versus Chepe Mariscal, 2 unranked featherweights. That's going to be a war. Alexander Hernandez, Ignacio Bahamondes, some fun fighters. You have Johnny Walker's younger brother, Walter Walker, who's 11-0. He's fighting. Trevor Peek and Charlie Campbell, guaranteed to produce a knockout. Excited for that, but yeah, that's all we got for UFC Atlantic City. I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I've had enough of these lackluster events. I need to be delivered, need to be set free, and UFC 300 is going to do just that. I'm so pumped for UFC 300. The bout order is set. I'm pumped for it. Does it really make sense that Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt is opening the card? No. I'd say the worst fight on here is probably Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez, or Holly Holmes versus Kayla Harrison. But nonetheless, I'll take it. UFC 300 is going to be so good. UFC 300 is going to be so good. Better than anything we've watched as of late. But yeah, UFC Atlantic City, kind of a letdown. But I did have March Madness, and Godzilla versus Kong. Those were the highlights of my weekend. So that's all we got for today's episode. Nice and short. Thank goodness it wasn't that long. Kind of like when the episodes are a bit shorter now. Easier to upload. But yeah, we'll be back Thursday with a lot more fun action. And hopefully UFC Vegas 90 delivers next Saturday. Also, going to be giving our WrestleMania 40 predictions. Giving some new UFC news, NBA, NHL, all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah, Final Four going down Saturday and Monday. I'm going with UConn and Purdue, but it would be pretty cool if NC State made it to the championship game. Of course, go see Godzilla versus Kong in theaters. Absolutely amazing film. Watch Invincible on Amazon Prime. And if you can watch No Country for Old Men, that's a very good film for people who like actual good cinema. Watch that film. That's all I got for today, folks. Make this the best week of your lives. This airs on a Monday night. I might drop this on Tuesday morning, actually, so that's pretty similar. But whenever you listen to this, just know you're amazing. Jesus loves you. It's going to be an amazing 2024. And guess what? I'll catch you next time on the Surprise Jab Podcast.